Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia. Let's talk books. And today I have my November wrap up. I did not read as much in November because I didn't read as much in late October. What I've realized is that starting books the month before I finish them helps me finish more books in the month. But yeah, so let's see. I think I read 6 books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books, yes, in November, which is actually okay for me, especially because November is a heavy work month for anyone who's a student, right? November is crazy because you're towards the end of the fall semester or quarter, and so you're finishing projects. For me as a professor, I am grading all those projects, so it can get quite hectic. So still, I managed to read 6 books, which I think is very good for me. So let's start with All the Light We Cannot See. I actually did a dedicated review to this, and I believe I'm posting it after I post this video because I'm a little hesitant about it. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars, and which is a good rating for me. It's like, I liked it, I enjoyed it, but I'm not like gonna try to get everyone in my life to read it, right? There were drawbacks, but I can definitely see why everybody loved it. So if you're interested in hearing further thoughts on this book, keep an eye out for the dedicated review that I'll do on this. So a little bit about the premise, if you haven't heard about this. It's set in World War II France and Germany, and you follow 2 main characters, really, a French girl and a German boy, and there's a lot of like character development rather than plot in this book because you know it's a World War II book, you know nothing good's gonna happen, but you're following their lives as they're basically grow up in the middle of the war. And it is beautifully written, by the way. It's incredibly lyrical and gorgeous, the writing is. So that was it. So next book that I read in November, let's see, was A Duke by Default. And this book is part of the Reluctant Royals series by Alyssa Cole. And I really like Alyssa Cole's historical books. And I've only in the last 6 months been dipping my toes into contemporary romances. And she's one of the ones that I've picked up for the contemporaries because I liked her historical so much. And so this is number 2 in the Reluctant Royals series. The first one, what was it? Princess in Theory, I think it was called. But this one was not as great as that one. Like that first one was really, really good. But this one, you're following Portia Hobbs, and she's a character in the first book where she's like the crazy party girl, best friend. And I was buddy reading this book, and I don't think Jessie finished this book. We kind of stopped communicating because she wasn't enjoying it, and I think I enjoyed it more, but basically the personality of Portia changes from book 1 to book 2. Not completely, but significantly, I think. And yeah, so if you liked her in book 1, you might not like her in book 2. This is, though, set in Scotland, and there's sword making and a little bit of sword fighting. So that kind of made me like it enough. So this was another 3 out of 5 stars, and I am going to continue with the series because Alyssa Cole is an author that I do really, really enjoy. All right, so I read a historical fiction Pulitzer Prize winning book, and then I read a romance novel, and then I needed something comforting to read in November, and I read Witness in Death by J.D. Robb, and this was a fantastic book. So this is part of the In Death series, and J.D. Robb is the pseudonym for Nora Roberts, and I am slowly getting through the entire series here, and this was a really, really great one. It has a lot of literary elements in it. It has a fantastic mystery and enough of Rourke and Eve Dallas is the main character. So yeah, I don't always have a lot to say about these because it's kind of, it's a series, right? So you get little bits and pieces in here. The really what you would need to know is that the mystery in here really works. You get enough of Eve and Rourke in here, and it's fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and for the first time in quite a few months, I read it in physical book, not in ebook, which is how I really kind of prefer reading those. But once in a while, like my library puts me on hold for them, and I'm like, I don't want to wait, and I go to my used bookstore and I get the physical copy. Anyway, next book that I read was Hearthstone by Elle, Katherine White. I read this for my book club that I run, and it was really good. It was actually even better was I got to talk about it with the book club, because I really enjoyed the book. It is a Pride and Prejudice retelling, but with dragons. And I love Pride and Prejudice retellings. I think there's only one ever that I have not liked. But I'm here for all of those stories. And this one had dragons. Like, it's really cool. And the author does a fantastic job of, like, you have the story. The basic structure of the story is the same, right? It's Pride and Prejudice. But the way she weaves in the magical world, which is sad, is really, really great. And you end up with one of the things a book club member talked about was how in the original novel she felt that Darcy and Elizabeth didn't earn their happy ending, and in this one that they earn it more. And like, I don't know if I agree completely that they don't earn it in the original one, but I do feel there's like more of that element in this one. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Now, when you're going to switch worlds like that, there is something in the old one that is going to get a little bit lost. So I think I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars, because like the quietness, like the study of like the society and like the everyday element for women in that society is lost when you switch the setting of the story to a magical world where there are dragons. But in its place, you get this world, you get magical creatures, and that was really interesting, and like I want to keep reading. So the sequel just came out, and I will be picking that one up and reading it. All right, the next book that I read was I'll Be Gone in the Dark, One Woman's Obsessive Search for the Golden State Killer by Michelle McNamara, and it was finished by like some of the people that were working with her and her husband. And so this is about the Golden State Killer who was recently caught, and the killer was caught like, was it within weeks of this book coming out? Which I think it's a fantastic like behind the scenes story to the story. It was already a really interesting like backstory to it, because Michelle McNamara died in her sleep, I believe, before she finished the book. But okay, so I read this and I listened to it in audiobook, and I think it is a fantastic way of getting the story, because the narration was really good, and because they pieced together parts of the book based on like things she had written in her research on the Golden State Killer. I'm not sure how that like plays out reading it in physical copy, but in audio it worked really well. You get a little recap at the beginning of each chapter telling you how they pieced together the chapter, and then you get into the story. And Michelle McNamara, like, you can tell the things she wrote versus the things she didn't, because she has a really immersive writing style where like she brings you in to these people's stories, these real life people whose lives were deeply affected by the serial killer. And she weaves her own story in there. So you also feel like you're getting to know her as you're reading, as she's telling you about the serial killer and the horrible crimes he committed. So if you're into like true crime, I think you'd enjoy this. I think it's a really, really nice book. If you're not into it, then I don't know, maybe stay away. But it was a 5-star read for me. It's been a while since I've read true crime, and this just like, it made me want to get on my phone or my computer, look up, what's happened to the killer. His case hasn't, like, it's not completed yet. He still needs to plead and etc., etc. And yeah, so like if you're into like that stuff, like I need to go read all about what's happening with this. It's really good. And then one last book that I read in November, and technically I finished it in December, but I finished it at 1 a.m. December 1st. So I'm counting it as a November read because I read it all on the last day of November. And that is My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. I hope I didn't totally butcher that, but I'm trying. So this is a fantastic read. Okay, first of all, the title of this book grabbed me from the beginning. My Sister the Serial Killer. I knew I was going to buy it. I knew I was going to read this book. Then the premise is that there's these two sisters in, let me see, where are they at? They're in Nigeria. And one of them basically kills her boyfriends. Yes, she is basically a serial killer. When she kills a man, she calls her sister. And the sister comes in and helps her clean up. So the book starts with, oh crap, my sister killed someone else. So let me go over there and help her. And it's a really short book, guys. So I read this all in one day. How many pages is it? It's under 250 pages. It's like 225, 226. But I don't know. The story grabbed me from the beginning, and I just could not put it down. It is largely, it's not just the serial killer element, so there's enough of that in there to keep you interested. But it's about sisters and the things we're willing to do for our sisters, and the ways in which, like, growing up with somebody, sharing a home, sharing parents with, like, shapes who you are and shapes your interactions with the world. And as somebody who has sisters, I have two sisters and a brother, I loved that look at the sister relationships, right? As my youngest sister especially gets older, but actually as we all get older, it's interesting the way, like, childhood stuff comes up and the way you grow together, sometimes grow apart and then find each other back up again. I don't know. I love my sisters. I love my evolving relationship with them, and I loved seeing that in this kind of setting in here. So if you like the sister bonding relationship stuff, I think you would like this book. If you are, you know, we know who the serial killer is in the story, so it's not like a mystery, but there is a little bit of like, all right, what's gonna happen to my sister, because, and to me, as we try to keep this secret going. So there's a little bit of like a mystery there, and of some like conflict in the plot that does keep you like wanting to read. So highly recommend it. This was another 5-star read for me, and actually since December I've been on a really good kick. So you'll see when I do my December wrap up, but I feel like I've been reading a lot of 4 or 5-star books, and I mean, the only 2 books that got the lowest scores were All the Light We Cannot See and A Duke by Default, which were each 3 stars, but were not bad. So I feel like I am gonna end the year on a good reading month. But yeah, these are my November reads. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you plan on reading any of these, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.